Welcome to the Retina Workplace 2.0 training tutorial. This version of Retina Workplace allows you to analyze the Cirrus OCT MAC cubes, raster scans, and also it integrates fundus photos from various different cameras. And one thing to keep in mind when going through this demonstration and when first beginning to use Forum or the workplaces is that you'll realize there are many different ways to navigate through Forum. There are different ways to display your images in testing within the document display mode, within the workplaces. So it really takes just getting in there and using the software to get comfortable and to figure out a workflow that works best for you in your clinic. So to start from the patient directory screen, when ready to view your patient's testing, you can either double click anywhere on the name or go down to document display in the bottom right hand corner. The document display screen is really the home page of all of your patient's test history, and we will go over this in a little bit more detail, but first I want to start by going right into Retina Workplace. The Retina Workplace menu is located on the left-hand side of the document display screen, and there are a few pre-select options to choose from. We have the MAC thickness analysis first and last 2 visits, which is the first OCT acquired and the 2 most recent visit dates. We have our MAC thickness analysis last 3 visits, our MAC change analysis last 2, just like it is on the OCT report itself for the change analysis. It's always just a comparison of 2 OCT dates at a time. We have our advanced RPE analysis last 3, our raster scans first and last 2, and our raster scans last 3 visits. So we'll start by going right into the MAC thickness analysis last 3 visits. So as I mentioned, there are quite a few features and tools in Retina Workplace, so I really just want to highlight some of the key and most commonly used functions. Retina Workplace is always going to be right and left eye separate, and you can toggle between the 2 eyes in this top left-hand corner. And right now we're looking at the 3 most recent MAC cubes from the pre-select that we chose. So if you click anywhere on the screen and just use the scroll wheel on your mouse, it will go through the cuts of all 3 OCTs simultaneously. In the right hand corner we have this play feature, and that just goes through the OCTs and the cuts on its own, and you can click and drag to adjust the speed and pause to make it stop. In the left hand side we have the signal strength for that OCT, and I do just want to point out the visit dates are shown at the top of each OCT. If you're wanting to look at any one of these in a larger view, double click on the area you're wanting to look at, whether it's the fundus or the B-scan area. Simply double click and it'll take you right to that display, and you can toggle between the large fundus or the large B-scan at the top of the screen. To close and get back, you're just going to hit close here on the top toolbar, and it brings us right back to our OCTs. So the bottom portion of Retina Workplace is known as the analysis area, and the analysis is divided into 3 different views. We have our chart view, our overlay, and our data table. So the chart view, as you can see, we have an orange and a green line here. Currently the orange is graphing out our central subfield, and the green line is currently graphing out our average cube thickness, which can be changed. But I think the most powerful thing about this chart view is that each one of these dots represent your visit dates. So the 3 dots with the circles around them are showing and representing the 3 OCTs displayed currently on the screen, and the one with the blue circle just depends on which OCT you've clicked on and highlighted. So these are all your OCT visit dates. So for example, if you're now wanting to compare not just the last 3, but you're wanting to go back to maybe the first visit where you started following the patient, or maybe your last Avastin injection, just click on that OCT date and drag into place, and it'll pull that OCT up on the screen for you. So as you can see, even though we started with the MAC thickness analysis, last 3 visits as the pre-selected option, it's still very easy to click and compare different OCT dates. So another key feature to point out is down below in the analysis area here, you can see there are a few injections added to some of these OCT dates. So you do have the ability now to add and track clinical events. If you hover over any of these thumbnails, you can see the details and the date. And to add a new event, you'd simply right-click on any OCT. Your menu will pop up. Do you want to add an injection, medication, surgery? Choose what you're adding. You can label, color code, add any notes, and save. So very easy to do, and as you can see over here on the right hand side, it will keep track of all the events that have been added. So moving on to the 2 other views in the analysis, we have our overlay view, which just simply allows you to change which overlay is being displayed on the OCTs. So we can change between the MAC thickness overlays, our en-face overlays, and the advanced RPE analysis overlays. Keep in mind whichever overlay you've selected will change the data being displayed in the table view. So currently we are on the ETDRS overlay, and we're seeing all the parameters for that just like you would get on your OCT report for MAC thickness. If you do want to look at the normative data, just click on the exclamation point and it'll bring up that table for you. So a few other key things to point out if we go back to this chart view, you'll notice at the bottom of a few of these OCT dates there's a red dot, and that red dot represents that there was also a raster scan acquired the same day. You can use this with your 5-line rasters, your 1-line, 21 lines, HD radials, all of those will work, but you can then click and drag it over your cube and it will register that raster scan on top of the cube. Once it's registered, you can click on any of the 5 lines and use the scroll wheel on your mouse to go through the cuts. So we also have the ability to do this with our fundus photos. Even if the 2 weren't acquired on the same day, it will replace the image taken on the OCT with the fundus photo taken from your camera. And so to do this, you're going to select the single arrow at the bottom of the screen. Then we can easily see which visit dates had fundus photos acquired, select the visit date, and click and drag the photo into place. This photo was able to register successfully on its own. If it didn't register on its own, you do have the ability to register manually. And just like on the OCT, you would match up 3 alike vessels on each image and hit register. Okay, so moving on to some of the toolbar functions. We have the ability to adjust the B-scan from color to grayscale. We can edit or display the segmentation lines. We can snap the crosshairs to the foveal center or the center of the OCT. This is an HD option. This adjusts the transparency of the overlay. So as you can see, as I drag it up and down, the overlays are changing. And then here we have a brightness and contrast tool. So I'm going to double click on the fundus photo just to make this a little bit larger, and then I'm going to use the brightness and contrast tool here so you can see how that changes. If I hit OK, you now have a pencil icon, and that's just letting you know that the photo has been edited from its original. So if I click on that brightness and contrast again and hit reset, it's going to go and default back to the original image. And lastly, this function allows us to rotate the fundus photo by 180 degrees. So the rest of the pre-selected options in Retina Workplace are all set up very similar. One thing to keep in mind with the change analysis, just like on the OCT, it's a comparison only between 2 visit dates, and in Retina Workplace it will default to the 2 most recent OCT visits. But again, just like in the MAC thickness analysis, it's very easy to change the OCT selection. We have our advanced RPE analysis, which will display the different overlays, and I'll briefly just display the raster scans first and last 2 visits. You can see, again, it is very similar, just not as many data points, obviously, and no overlays. So the last piece before wrapping up the training I briefly want to show you is how to pull up a series of fundus photos within the document display screen. So we're going to use these double arrows to close out of Retina Workplace. It takes us back to the document display screen, and I'm going to select FI to show me all of the visit dates that have fundus photos. There's 2 different ways to view the images. We can select a series of photos and right-click and choose Document Navigator, which will open the fundus photos in a stack, and you can then use your arrow keys either on the screen or on your keyboard to tab through all of the photos, or hit Close, right-click, and choose Document Display, which will bring up all of the fundus images in a proof sheet. You also have a caliper tool for measurements and a brightness and contrast tool here in the document display mode. That about wraps up the training on Retina Workplace, so thank you all very much.